The medium builds Guardian Turret and the heavy builds Dome Shield. Individually, they are the medium's faithful extra gun and the heavy's hands-free haven of protection in the finals, and together they can become a defensive behemoth. I'm going to teach you about each one and show you how best to use them individually and together with your teammates, as well as show you some novel uses. G'day, Rockhound here! In my last video, I took you through 85 tips for the finals. That video has been getting loads of positive feedback and a lot of people seem to find it helpful, which is fantastic. That video is linked above if you want to check it out. Anyhow, following that, I want to create a series of videos with tips for the finals, which rather than having loads of different tips, simply focus on one or two things in game in a lot more detail. So for instance, in this video where I'm looking at a build, specialization and a gadget, I'll look at facts about each one, like where you can and can't use them, then ways to make the most of them in game, either on their own or in this instance, I'll show you how you can work with your teammates to use them together super effectively with some in-game examples. And if I come up with some crazy uses, I'll show you those too. So let's kick things off with the Guardian Turret. The turret has to be unlocked by the medium using VRs, as it's one of the build's 3 specializations, alongside the healing beam, which the medium has unlocked when they first play the game, and recon sensors, which also require unlocking. The turret is a deployable AI-controlled assault rifle. It has 3 laser beams that it emits to look for targets and scans those back and forth. The 2 angled lasers give the turret a total of 150-degree scanning arc. This was something I actually got wrong in my 85 tips video, as I said it was 90 degrees, but I've since jumped on top of one of them and measured the angle of that arc. The turret will shoot outside of the scanning area if it gets fired upon, so it'll respond by turning in the direction it's being shot from, like it does in this gameplay. But mostly it's going to be scanning that 150-degree sector, so you'll need to face it the right way if you can. The turret has 300 points of health and can be temporarily disabled by glitch grenades. From the gameplay of the turret that I've recorded, it appears to inflict 5 points of damage per shot it makes on an opponent. Here's the turret in the equipment section of the backstage, and you can see that there are a variety of battle pass and pay for skins available for it. Currently you can't attach any charms or stickers to it. I'm not sure why that is, and I'd like to see Embark Studios add those. In game, the turret takes 5 seconds from when you deploy it until it starts actively scanning left and right for targets. I'll come back to how that delay affects the ways you should use the turret shortly. You can only deploy one Guardian turret at a time, and there is a cooldown of 40 seconds between deployments, although you can override the cooldown by picking the turret back up again. There are a lot of things you can attach the turret to and some things you can't. Floors, walls and ceilings all work. However, as I mentioned in my last video, if you're in one of the modern buildings on the Seoul or Skyway Stadium maps that have false ceilings, I recommend that you shoot the panel part of the ceiling out first and deploy the turret onto the concrete above that, to avoid having someone just shoot the panels and have your turret fall onto the floor, where it won't be as effective. You can also attach it in other parts of the environment like trees and poles, but more useful is being able to deploy it onto tables, chairs and other carryables. The advantage of this is that you can then pick the object and turret combo up and carry the active turret around with you. It will scan and shoot at opponents as you run along with it, and then if you run into a firefight, you can toss it to one side and it'll keep working, although if it falls on its side, it won't be as effective. 3 out of 4 of the canisters scattered around the map can have a turret deployed onto them as well, although I only recommend using 2. Flammable canisters and toxic gas canisters will land on their sides when you throw them, resulting in the Guardian turret doing the same thing, which makes it pretty useless. So instead, I recommend using either the goo canisters or powder canister. These 2 each have an advantage and a disadvantage. The goo canister will of course expand into a wall of goo when it lands, which provides you some cover if you need it, provided you start with the turret on top of the canister and centered on it. Then the turret will almost always pop out of the wall of goo on top and in a nearly upright or slightly tilted position, making it work pretty effectively. If you misplace the turret on the side of the canister at the start, it can result in some weird outcomes with the turret flying off or landing on its side. The powder canister, on the other hand, seems the most consistent for having the turret land upright when you throw it, provided you start with it standing upright on the canister. Otherwise, it will end up on its side as well. The biggest disadvantage of the powder canister is that the powder that's dispensed when it lands blocks the turret's view for about 5 seconds or so, but I suppose the turret is also unlikely to be seen by opponents because of the powder as well. So I'd say go with the powder canister option unless you want some cover from the goo. The turret can't be attached to the explosive canisters. I mean, imagine having mines mines and C4 and a turret attached to the explosive canisters. That would be insane. You also can't deploy it onto a cache box, zipline poles, or jump pads, although you can throw it onto a jump pad if it's attached to a canister or another object if you want to send it across the jump before you. You can also put the turret in some pretty odd places because you can deploy it while you're falling or at the end of a zipline. As an example, I used a zipline to place a turret on the ceiling of the practice range. The turret does have a limited range though, so aim to keep it within about 15 meters or yards of the area you want to scan. Nevertheless, just for saying I've done it, I was able to place a turret onto the hanging flammable canister container in the practice range with the use of a jump pad. And because turrets are objects that you can stand on, I was then able to zipline up to the container and jump onto the turret. It took a few goes to make it there successfully, but for all I know, this may be a first. Okay, now let's look at using the turret in game. We'll look at using it by itself first, but once I've gone over the details of the dome shield as well, I'll show you how you and a teammate can combine the two in a really powerful way. Despite being able to carry the Guardian turret with you on a carryable and throw it into the middle of a gunfight, the Guardian turret is best used as a defensive weapon when you're setting up your defenses around a cache out or a vault, and there are two main locations that I use it. Let's use a mock-up of a cache out here represented by this small stack of cache boxes, and this stack of goo canisters is an opponent who's just arrived up the zipline. Regardless of which position you choose to place the turret, I recommend that you always place them on the floor. The reason for this is that your opponents are quite likely to try one of three attacks. Firstly, they can enter on the same level as you, in which case the turret and you can engage them directly. Secondly, they might attack from above by knocking a hole in the ceiling above you. If the turret is on the ceiling and they happen to destroy the same part of it as the turret's located, it'll fall headfirst onto the floor, where it's likely to be a lot less effective, if at all. Having it on the floor means that it's less likely to be affected by the ceiling being destroyed. Thirdly, if your opponents blow a hole in the floor to bring the cache out down to them and the turret happens to go down with it, it will land upright on the piece of floor that's fallen and will immediately engage the enemy. If it's on the ceiling, it's probably going to be too high to be of any use for engaging opponents one floor below. Then as far as positioning goes, having it close to the cache out will be good if the opponents drop the cache out a level, as I mentioned before, and is my preferred position for a cache out in a building. You're going to want to position yourself at a reasonable distance away from the turret so that when an opponent arrives in the cache out area, either they have to engage you or the turret, but you don't want them to have you both in their direct line of sight. That way either you or the turret has an opportunity to shoot at them undefended for at least a few moments. That position can be around 90 degrees from the turret or directly opposite it, so you form a sort of pincer position aiming to have the enemy in between you and the turret. Whatever position you stand in, try to be in the turret's arc of scan so your back is covered by it facing you as it scans. An alternative defensive use of the turret is to kind of use it more as a sacrificial alert system. So for instance, in this gameplay where I'm playing with randoms on Skyway Stadium, we have the cache out pretty well protected, but in this area just around the corner, if I push forward into that, I get a little isolated. Once there's toxic gas in there, I decide to place the turret overseeing that area, and then I move back towards my teammates where I can have cover and be healed.
Started counting time.
I hear the turret engaging, and now I'm ready to engage the opponent as they run through to get out of the gas and towards the cache out, and they're easily picked off. You're more likely to lose the turret this way because it's isolated, but this strategy can work really well in the right location. Then we have offensive uses of the turret, which I kind of see as a secondary use because of that 5-second delay that it takes for the turret to start actively scanning when it's deployed, which will seem like a lifetime and sometimes will be if you immediately try to attack the enemy after deploying it. As long as you account for that delay, there are a few ways that you can use the turret offensively though. Firstly, you can deploy the turret onto a carryable, preferably a powder or goo canister, so that it is already active while you're running with it. Here's a really effective example on the Las Vegas map where I have mines attached to the goo canister as well as the turret. I throw the canister and turret a long way ahead, and the turret pops up out of the goo and ends up sitting on top of it, as it will usually do, and it starts engaging engaging an opponent on the left, and you can see by the time I get there, their health has already been reduced by about a quarter to a third, making it much easier for me to finish them off. As I showed in the 85 tips video, you can also double the Guardian turret up with an APS turret on a goo canister, which I call the Roaming Offensive Chaos Kit, or ROC for short, with the APS helping to protect the turret from projectiles. An alternative is to do a deploy and run, so you're going to dump the turret into the defended area and immediately remove yourself from there with the goal that the turret might not be seen and can start to reduce some of the enemy's health before you enter. This is often a good option if you are the first on the scene and the rest of your team is still 10 seconds or so away, or you need to try and distract the other team while you grab your teammate's statue so you can revive them. It also allows you to engage without actually putting yourself at immediate risk. Here's two examples on the Monaco map where we're trying to make a steal that was ultimately unsuccessful. My team is already on the scene and I initially throw in an explosive canister which does some damage to an enemy heavy, then I take out their turret, which was in that sort of entry protection zone that I mentioned earlier, and then deploy my turret in the same location. However, I decide that it's not going to see enough of the enemy in that position, pick it back up and jump and deploy the turret into the cash out room through the window as I fall past. This gives me an opportunity to flank around opposite to the turret, and I can hear and see that it's engaging as I enter the building, but it's taken out before I can get up to the cash out. So at this point I figured I throw a mine into the edge of the cash out room and see if I can draw out the enemy across the mine. Unfortunately, the enemy was facing me as I got there and I could only do a bit of light damage with the mine before I got taken out. I have a second go at this a short time later by using this jump pad to get into the roof and then drop down to the cash out level where I deploy the turret before entering from the floor. I engage a third party player before retreating a little to reload and can see and hear the turret shooting an opponent upstairs, so move forward to try and join it along with my teammates, where we and the turret take out a defending team player. But unfortunately we're too late to make the steal. Even after that though, the turret is still engaging and eliminates another player below me, so it did its job really well. Okay, that's the Guardian turret. Now let's look at the Dome Shield, then how the two of them can be combined effectively if you have a cooperative teammate. As a gadget, the Dome Shield has to be unlocked by the Heavy using VRs. The Dome Shield projects a semi-transparent bubble that protects you, any teammates, and any of your team's deployed items inside it for 20 seconds. You can only deploy one Dome Shield at a time, and there is a cooldown of 30 seconds from when you deploy it, so there's going to be a 10-second gap between it ending and being able to use it again. The Dome Shield has 300 points of health, which is a recent reduction in the latest patch from the original 350 points. It can also be temporarily disabled by glitch grenades. Here's the Dome Shield in the equipment section of the backstage, and like the Guardian turret, there are a variety of Battle Pass and pay for skins available for it. You can also attach charms and stickers to it. When you deploy the Dome Shield, it throws like a grenade, so you can throw it quite a long way if you need to. Mostly though, you will just right click to drop it at your feet. But if for some reason you need to, you can actually also bounce it on a jump pad, and you can also get it to set down on an object, so if you want to take the Dome Shield out for a morning cappuccino at the cafe, go ahead. When deployed, the Dome Shield is always a sphere, so it will project into the room below you and can therefore potentially give away your location to opponents down there. If they do bring you down, the Dome Shield will fall down with you and continue providing protection. This also means that the Dome Shield device doesn't stick to anything, so you can't actually carry it around attached to a canister, for instance. However, it can be moved around by hitting it with carryables if you need to shove it somewhere. When I tried this with a toxic gas canister, the Dome Shield device actually went berserk until its time ran out, so maybe that's a bug. There's definitely a bug in the practice range where sometimes this interaction will knock the Dome Shield under the floor of the range. A couple of other peculiar interactions in the practice range: when I hit the Dome Shield from above with an explosive canister, it instantly destroyed it, and when I threw a cash box at the Dome Shield device, it also killed the shield. So I'm interested to see if this is possible in-game as well. While the shield protects you from enemy projectiles and bullets, aside from the glitch grenade, it will not protect you from your own mines, so try not to place them near you in case they get activated. Flames and gas will also penetrate the shield, so it's not a 100% solution to avoiding damage. Let's now look at the use of the Dome Shield, firstly on its own, then in combination with the Guardian turret. Aside from simply using the Dome Shield for a bit of extra protection when you want, the two most common strategic situations where the Dome Shield is used is for protection while stealing at the cash out, or protection while you're reviving a teammate. At the cash out, provided you have some level of support from your teammates when you start stealing, you have a great chance of completing the steal if you are protected by the shield. The most common interruption you'll have in this situation is an opponent moving inside the shield and attacking you directly. Protecting your teammates during the steal is always super important, even though they have a dome shield over them. The dome shield definitely helps to put the odds in your favor in this situation, but you still got to support them. If you're reviving, the shield will buy you time because if an opponent approaches, either they will shoot the shield or they'll run towards you, either of which you should hear, except maybe if they're a light build. Another great way to use the dome shield on its own is to place it between your teammates and an opponent. But if you do this, you want to make it impossible for them to run through the shield. So chuck a couple of explosive mines or some C4 under the shield and then rotate around it, keeping the opponent on the other side of the dome. So the goal is to strafe around and around the perimeter of the shield while shooting them and preventing them from pushing you directly because they can't risk running straight through the shield. Okay, the individual use aside, my new favorite use of the dome shield is in combination with the Guardian turret. You can also add the APS turret into the mix as well if you want, but I'm not going to cover that here. I'll show you a few gameplay instances of this strategy now while I explain it. The Guardian turret and dome shield combo requires you to have a teammate who knows the strategy, because one of you is going to play medium build and the other one heavy. This method works particularly well in tournaments where it's likely that you have a little extra time to get set up in a really good location relative to the cash out, but you can really use it anywhere you like. The medium places the turret in a location where you're going to have a decent amount of room to move around and inside the shield once it's deployed. The moment any opponents arrive on the scene, the heavy build drops the dome shield over the turret. The team then use the shield for protection while engaging alongside the turret. Provided the heavy doesn't die, you'll have the dome in place for 20 seconds out of every 30, keeping the turret fully protected. If you have two heavies on the team, you can potentially always have a dome shield in place over the turret. This strategy typically greatly reduces your chances of being eliminated while defending close to the dome shield and keeps the turret active for a much longer period. It's not impenetrable though. If you have multiple opponents shooting the dome shield at the same time, you'll lose it quickly, but if your team is focused on the incoming attacks, you stand a good chance of stopping that from happening. When DeMeister and I first put the strategy to test, we won a tournament right away, so I'd say we're happy to keep using this as a main strategy for now. Anyhow, try the strategy in game and let me know in the comments below if you have success with it like we did. Thanks for watching this video on the Guardian turret and dome shield to the end. Do the usual YouTube business if you want to see more videos like this from me from now on. Give a like or comment as you see fit, and enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha, stay strong.
Everybody knows the world ain't right. Down on your knees, get up and fight.